Good evening and welcome to the Blueprint Explosive Exclusive. I'm Madhavdas G. Viewers, there's some big news coming in. It's the Annual Threat Assessment report released by the US intelligence community, which has listed a number of terror groups which have been flagged as concern to the United States. The list not only includes groups which pose a direct threat to the US and the American people, but also terror groups which are operating in other parts of the world and have expanded their reach and influence. Anti-India groups such as the Lashkar-e-Tayyiba has found a mention, with a report calling the group a concern for the US due to its historic links with the Al-Qaeda. Let's take a quick look at the terror groups which have been flagged in the US intelligence assessment report. The Al-Qaeda, where it still intends to target the US and its citizens, has been mentioned. The fact that it's using anti-Israel sentiment to incite attacks. There's also the mention of LET, or the Lashkar-e-Tayyiba. It's an anti-India terror group and has historical links with the Al-Qaeda, has been specifically mentioned as well. There's the role of the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. Primarily has been attacking Pakistan's government and has historic ties to the Al-Qaeda, which remain a US concern. ISIS has also been mentioned, which aims to exploit the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. Africa is also believed to be a growing ISIS stronghold. There's the ISIS-K, or the ISIS Khorasan module as well, which is the most capable branch for external attacks. Operations in South and Central Asia and beyond have been mentioned. Now, viewers, Lashkar-e-Tayyiba terror group, whose link to Al-Qaeda has been flagged, is notorious for carrying out a spate of deadly terror attacks in India. Let's take a look at some of those. There's the Indian Parliament attack on the 13th of December 2001, which resulted in the deaths of 9 people. The 26/11 Mumbai terror attack on the 26th to the 29th of November 2008 resulted in the deaths of 166 people. The Mumbai train bombings on the 11th of July 2006 was serial blasts in Mumbai's local trains. This attack killed more than 200 people. The Delhi bombings in 2005 October, where at least 62 people were killed. The Varanasi bombings in March 2006, where the attack killed 21 civilians and injured over 60. Let's quickly get an update from Bhavtosh Singh, who's joining us for more on this. Bhavtosh, this is very significant because while the links of Lashkar-e-Tayyiba and Al-Qaeda have been spoken about, it's been suspected by various agencies, but now it's the United States that's actually talking about it, showing us the kind of role that the international terror groups have in terms of linkages, groups such as Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, which have been responsible for various attacks across India.
Yes, Madhav, in fact, the report gives specific information about Lashkar-e-Tayyiba. It's a proscribed organization, and what it mentions is that there is a linkage between Lashkar-e-Tayyiba and Al-Qaeda. It does not go much into details, but it mentions that 3 terror groups, Tehrik-e-Taliban, Lashkar-e-Tayyiba and Al-Qaeda in Indian subcontinent, they are all linked, primarily because of the fact that the founding members of these groups are linked to each other. Importantly, it also mentions that ISIS might in fact become a bigger threat for not only for Indian subcontinent but also across the country, primarily because of the fact that with the fall of Assad regime, there are several prisoners who have been released. It mentions about specific incident like the attack on in Moscow, in which 132 people were killed. But as far as domestic incidents are concerned, it was ISIS attack that had taken place in Rameshwaram. Remember, it took agencies nearly 2 months to track the accused in this case, and the main accused as far as that case is concerned is an individual who goes by the name of Colonel. Lashkar-e-Tayyiba's link with with Al-Qaeda is something that has been mentioned even previously, primarily because of the fact that the individuals who are linked to each other are same. The report further mentions that Tehrik-e-Taliban founding members are linked to Al-Qaeda as well as to Lashkar-e-Tayyiba.
All right, Bhavtosh, thanks so much for joining us for that, with that quick update. In fact, this particular report, of course, very, very significant, and we will take this, of course, across to our guests also joining us now. All right, we have Yasir Janjua, who's joining us. He's a retired Pakistan defense analyst. Mr. Yasir Janjua, the role of groups, not just in Pakistan, but across the world have been mentioned. But what is very significant are the links between LET and Al-Qaeda that have been specifically mentioned as far as this particular US intelligence and threat report is concerned.
Madhav, with due respect, have you read the report?
Well, I have seen certain excerpts of it, sir. And this is what we are reading out for you.
Let me tell you something that you are trying to skip or avoid talking about. If you have 5 fingers and point one finger at me, there are 4 pointing at you. At page number 4 of the report, the foreword second paragraph, 4th last line, it says non-state groups are often enabled both directly and indirectly by state actors such as China and India. And then on page number 6 again, it says China remains the primary source of illicit fentanyl precursor chemicals and pill pressing equipment, followed by India. So this is about India.
No.
Now
I'm sorry, Mr. Janjua. I'm sorry, Mr. Janjua. You may try very hard to pin this on India. You try very hard even when there are incidents in Balochistan, but nothing is proved. My simple question to you is that LET and its role is very well known as far as different terror attacks are concerned. There's absolutely no proof of any such terror being spread by India. Once again, you are trying to build a false narrative, sir.
No, I'm not trying to build
Of course you are. What is the comparison with terror groups and these allegations being made? Why didn't you take onus for Lashkar-e-Tayyiba, which has been nurtured by the ISI? Why didn't you try and talk about the links between Al-Qaeda and the LET, sir? Why are you easily skipping all of that? The same accusation will be made against you. But let me bring in Sushil Pandit. Sushil Pandit, is there any case to be made as far as this US report is concerned? There's a little bit of cherry picking that Major Yasir Janjua is doing over here. He says the role of India has been mentioned. But the fact that Pakistan has not only actively supported and bred these terror groups, but the very fact that they are now linked to various international groups such as Al-Qaeda is something that's specifically mentioned by the United States.
Yes, and not the first time. Pakistan's only export to the world, if it is worth calling an export, is terror. And this is universally recognized. Before this report, Hillary Clinton had come to Pakistan and delivered these homilies on their soil that stop breeding snakes in your backyard. Before her, Madeleine Albright, who was US Secretary of State under Clinton, she came and said Pakistan has become a migrant to the world. And these are reasons not recent. This is about 90s, this is about 2000s when these issues came up. They have a whole history. They are history sheeters in spreading terror. And this has been their state policy. In fact, the former ISI chief was gloating about it, that we used American money to drive Soviets out, and now we are using American money to kill Americans. They actually gloat over their perfidy. They gloat over their double standards. They gloat over the fact that they have become a terror factory. They wear it as a badge of pride. And now that it has become some kind of an anathema to the world, and world has come to start punishing them for this, they are trying to wriggle out of it. They're trying to say that we ourselves are victims of terror. No, sir. You have been found out.
Very poor understanding of English at your level. This is your creed. The report clearly says...
Mr. Janjua, can you tell me in English, where was Osama bin Laden found?
Hello, who found him? Who found him?
No, where was he found? You tell me.
He was found in Abbottabad, and who found him?
Who was shielding him? Your Pakistan army was shielding him, sir, in Abbottabad. Your garrison town.
Why are you going
your headquarters of your army.
Madhav,
you shield an international terrorist, and then you talk about being a victim of terror.
Now, let's state the report for now, and then we'll dive into the
do you tell us about your track record in promoting and breeding terror, sir?
The report says Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan has been targeting government of Pakistan to avoid anti-terrorism pressure. Does that not say? So Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan.
Who created them?
Sushil, I heard you. Sushil, when you were talking, I didn't speak. Sushil, when you were speaking, I didn't speak. Give me a minute. Have a heart. I heard you patiently. So the report says Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan is connected to Al-Qaeda. And Lashkar-e-Tayyiba is connected to Al-Qaeda. So if Pakistan government is under attack at times from Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, how are we supposed to be harboring Lashkar-e-Tayyiba?
Sir, who is Hafiz Saeed?
Simple case of 2
Who is Hafiz Saeed?
But you would not understand.
My God,
And Sushil
my
Pandit,
God, amazing.
And Sushil
Amazing,
Pandit,
amazing.
And Sushil
Major
Pandit,
Janjua, just
and
tell us,
Sushil
just
Pandit and
refresh our
Madhav.
memory. How long after 2008 26/11 attacks did you take to actually put Hafiz Saeed behind bars? Can you tell us what action was taken after 26/11?
Listen, he's not a state actor, but you were involved in
So
state
all the more
terrorism
reason for
in
you to have
Canada.
arrested him. All the more reason for you to have arrested him, but nothing happens on terror groups.
Indian
Nothing
government
ever
was
happens on
involved.
terror groups in Pakistan. When you are, threatened, when you're on the grey list,
Government
then
was
some
involved
sort of
as recently
token
as
action
6 years
happens by
ago.
Pakistan. Otherwise, there is
Indian government
absolute
was
promotion.
involved in killing
Whether it is
Sikhs
the
in Canada,
ISI, whether
when
it is
they
your
tried
army,
to kill
they
one
continue to
in
promote
the
terror
America.
groups on your soil, sir. That's the reality end of the
This
day.
is what you are doing.
And this is a bitter
So
pill that you
don't
will
give
have
me
to
definitions
swallow,
of terrorism.
because here it is
When
being
your Prime
recognized by the
Minister
world now.
Stands up and confesses. When your Prime Minister stands up and confesses his involvement in terrorism in
Absolute nonsense. Mr. Janjua, don't talk nonsense on national television. I want Sushil Pandit to respond to that. Sushil Pandit. He says we've been acting on terror. We are victims of terror, it seems.
No, actually, this is what Hillary said. When you rear snakes in your backyard, they'll come to bite you. And once they bite you, if you're putting together an IED and it blows up in your face, you don't become a victim of terror. You have become a factory of terror, and this factory is blowing up in your face, and you're trying to garner sympathy for that. This is actually too clever by half. Please, please don't take world to be a fool. You can't fool all the people all the time. Your own generals have confessed to the fact that they've been running circles around American presidents, trying to fool them in order to get money out of them, get arms out of them. So this has been the instrument of your state policy. Your diplomacy, your politics rests on it. You allow these terror groups to raise funds across your cities during Eid, during Ramzan, to fight jihad in India, to fight jihad wherever else. This has been your creed. You've been harboring them. Tell me how Zakir Rahman Lakvi could sire a son in jail when he was in your custody. How Hafiz Saeed could roam around despite being in jail. You were forced to jail them because you were under a certain grey list.
Okay.
And you were on a financial squeeze.
So Sushil,
and at the same time, you were prevaricating.
Let me bring in Faraz also. Faraz Saeed, Pakistan journalist, also joining us. Faraz Saeed, memory is short, it seems, and I think that's what, one of our guests, at least here, Major Janjua, wants us to believe that, Pakistan has had absolutely no role, it seems, in perpetuating terror. But Zakir Rahman Lakwi, Hafiz Saeed, these names are so familiar. Nothing happens to them, despite the fact that India has submitted dossier after dossier of proof of their involvement. And finally, when the grey list threat happens, of more restrictions on Pakistan, that's when finally some action happens.
I mean, Pakistan, there were times when Pakistan was in path of grey list because of money laundering and terror financing factors, but that's not the case anymore. That's not a reality anymore. And I've never shied away from acknowledging the fact that, Pakistan, historically speaking, even during 90s, during 80s, and even during 2000s, Pakistani state and its resources were used in perpetuating and harboring Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan against before Soviet invasion, and then later, once the Soviets were met, the Western allies left, and the Frankenstein monster was left to be dealt with by Pakistan. So I mean, I've always said that there has been a history, because the region has been somehow acting in a certain way, but today Pakistan has been the worst victim of terror. Pakistan has been facing hijack issues. Terrorists are mounting pressure against Pakistani state, and the Pakistani state is fighting against this very terror organizations which are erupting out of nowhere from Pak-Afghan border, from Pak-Iran border. And there's also a lot of reality when we say that there are foreign hands in sponsoring these terror outfits, and not to forget that there's an Indian
foreign hand is a threat that is made and nothing is proved. And I'm glad that at least you're acknowledging the fact that in the 90s and 2000 it was actively done. How you're saying it has suddenly magically stopped, nobody really knows the answer to that, Faraz. And why would it stop? We are seeing terror attacks happen. We are seeing these groups that have been active. Yes, to a large extent, their operations may have been curtailed. But the fact that, such groups are operating very freely in Pakistan is a very well-known fact. Faraz?
I just want to remind you that in the past 10 to 12 years, there have been serious, large-scale military attacks, large-scale military actions on our Pak-Afghan border to eliminate these terrorists, even to until there's the last terrorist that remains on the border. However, after 2001 US withdrawal from Afghanistan, these terrorists on our western border have been given a new breath.
And what about your eastern border with India? Nothing over there. Radio silence.
I mean, of course, the Indians are busy sponsoring terror.
Oh, Indians are busy sponsoring terror. You will not take action on your eastern border, and that is India's fault. Amazing. Amazing logic. Sushil Pandit, amazing logic on national television.
This journalist, I must remind that Taliban is a post-Soviet phenomenon. It was not during the Soviet occupation. During Soviet occupation, there were mujahideens, of course, of different factions. There was Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, there was Masood, there was Abdul Rashid Dostum. All these were mujahid factions, warlords, who were supported by CIA and Pakistan. After takeover by mujahids in the post-Soviet Afghanistan, Talibans were injected into Afghanistan by Pakistan from Haqqaniya Madrasa and others where they were bred in Karachi, in Peshawar. And then they took over from mujahids. And later, this Taliban became a Frankenstein monster. They thought by installing Taliban in Afghanistan, they would have their, strategic depth in Afghanistan, but Afghanistan and Taliban had their own ideas. The point is, when they bred people in Pakistan, they had to face Lal Masjid kind of situation where Musharraf had to do action. Musharraf himself, his life was, there was an attempt on his life by Jaish-e-Mohammed module.
Right.
He had to go after them.
Right. Well, I think there are a number of instances that really show that India has been a victim of terror that has been perpetrated from Pakistan soil. The very fact that these groups have now got international links with Al-Qaeda and other international terror groups should just be a warning sign for Pakistan. Unfortunately, that message doesn't seem to be sinking in. Sushil Pandit, Faraz Saeed, Major Yasir Janjua, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening on the show.